What's going on, everybody? And welcome to another episode of Ask A CISSP. So my name is Ryan Williams. I like to answer people's questions. This podcast is slightly evolving, right? So it used to be me talking to an echo chamber, but for the second week in a row, I have a special guest. So I have Mr. James Carroll III on the show. If you could just give us a quick little intro, who you are and what you really do.
All right. Thanks, Ryan, for having me. My name is James. As Ryan stated, I'm James Carroll III. I am currently on a extended vacation right now, but I do come from a background of working in the oil and gas industry. Also have a background in working in security, um, public and private sector, and right now the pursuit is to break into cybersecurity. So hopefully I can share some information and give a little insight into myself to kind of help everyone get to know who I am. And again, Ryan, thank you for providing a platform to just kind of talk and discuss and ask questions and uh, and just exchange feedback.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely. I'm glad to have you on the show. Like I said, this is currently evolving, right? So this is a companion show to the other side of the firewall where we, talk about the latest and greatest in cybersecurity news, as well as we highlight those movers and shakers and glass ceiling breakers, those people of color who've made it to the other side of the proverbial firewall or that glass ceiling, right? This show, on the other hand, or I should say, I wanted to answer people's questions. I know a lot of people are trying to break into cyber. It's an ever-growing field. There's more than 1 million vacancies, so they say, for the need for more cybersecurity professionals. And I want to hear where people are at on their journey, and then answer questions on or what they might want to pursue, or at least help them to find connections and network, right? Because it again is very broad, and we need as many people as we can get. So I actually received a recommendation to have you on the show from Tish. So this was on last week.
Yeah.
Very high energy, very passionate about cybersecurity. She's now trying to break in as well. And as soon as I posted a video, she was like, "You should talk to James." And she tagged you. I was
Yeah, I
like,
saw that.
all
Yeah,
right,
yeah.
let me look at his profile real quick. And then when I looked at it, I saw geoscience. And so I saw you're taking what seemed to be a pretty big pivot from a sector I have no clue how it works into cybersecurity. So I was like, I think I asked you the question, like, how do the two tie to one another? And,
Yeah.
and now here we are. So if you could just give me and the audience, both video and audio, kind of your journey, right? How'd you go from one to the other?
Okay, so wow, and just looking back, just in my mind right now, just like I'm still kind of in a place of like wow, but so I graduated. I'll start back at the point of college. I graduated from Prairie View A&M with a degree in information systems, and just to be a little transparent, um, I'd gotten a degree in information systems, but I wasn't very confident at the time, uh, in my GPA and just how I felt and how much I felt I didn't know at the time. And so I earned that degree. However, I pursued doing other things. I was an assistant manager. I was a camp counselor. I was all these other things. And instead of just, you know, having the courage to just put myself out there in the IT space, I pursued other things. And so um, eventually I found myself working for the federal government as a contractor. And that's where I got exposed to security. I got exposed to physical security, personnel security, product security. I was working as a CCTV operator. And so I did that for a few years and um, thought, wow, this is comfortable. This is good. This is working out okay. But an opportunity while I was there came about where I met someone who knew someone who worked in oil and gas. So that's where my transition from the security space into the oil and gas space began to occur. And so um, I'm from Fort Worth, by the way, and so I was always a fan of downtown Fort Worth. I would hang out there. I would always imagine myself working down there, not knowing what I was going to do, but I just wanted to be in downtown Fort Worth. And so, as it would turn out, the person that I knew who worked at the federal facility where I was knew someone who worked in downtown. And so I submitted my resume, um, interviewed, and landed a job working as a security officer in the oil and gas for this oil and gas company. And so that was my segue into oil and gas. However, there was still that security component attached. Um, from there, um, I learned these other aspects of security, unarmed, of course. And so, it was um, how to engage and interact with executives and admins and just, different employees and things of that nature. And so I did that for about um, 2 years, working in the security portion. And then uh, there was a merger that took place. A larger company acquired us, and at that point, what I was doing was going to, for lack of better expression, was going to become obsolete. And so I had the good fortune of striking up a relationship with one of the VPs who worked in geology. So I actually interviewed for a position while still in my security uniform, and I was hired on the spot. And out of the goodness and the graciousness of the VP, I was, you know, able to get a raise and, start this journey into a field that I had no prior knowledge of. So, it was like, let's just try and see what happens. And thankfully, he took a chance on me, brought me in, and I began to learn a lot of the different functions and tools and processes on the job. And so that's how I transitioned from security into the geology space. Now, um, some may wonder, okay, well, what is geoscience? What is geology?
Right.
So that's not my background. But let me properly, you know, let me properly give, you know, what geoscience is. So geoscience basically is all your natural sciences, all your sciences that have to do with the study of the earth. It could be your earth science, your environmental science. It could be geology. So you have all these different sciences that have to do with the interaction and the study and the behavior of all things that have happened and occurred or currently occurring on the earth. So that's it in a nutshell. Um, but like I said, a lot of what I was doing, I learned it on the job, and so I spent I spent about 12 years uh, in that world, and then as of last year, began my what I call my extended vacation. Oil and gas industry took a huge hit with COVID and everything,
Right.
as we all did in some way, shape, or form. Everyone took a big hit, and so um, during that time off, uh, the question became, okay, what am I going to do now? I'm no longer working in oil and gas. Um, what am I going to do? And so I knew that I needed to educate myself again. I needed to do something productive with my time. And so um, I came across information for a boot camp. It was a cybersecurity boot camp through the University of Texas at Austin. And so it really piqued my interest because, again, I'm coming from this world of security, not necessarily cybersecurity, but I'm coming from this world
Right.
of security, and I've had different exposures. I've had different flavors of security, but I was always intrigued by computers as well. Now this might age me a little bit, but I still remember the first computer class that I went to when I was in elementary school, and I remember like the console itself. Now, I don't know if you'll remember this, Ryan, but um, it was the Radio Shack TRS-80. I'll let you Google that if you've never seen that
Okay.
before. I'll let you Google it.
Radio Shack TRS-8.
The TRS-80, TRS-80.
TRS-80. I want to see. I want to think. Did I see one in real life?
It might be. I'm sure it's in a museum somewhere, the Smithsonian or something. I'm sure. I'm sure. But I was always intrigued by computers. We didn't grow up with a computer in the house, so the only time that I had was at school.
Okay.
And that's from elementary on up through through high school. There wasn't any computer in home, but there was computers at the school. So there was always that intrigue. And then of course, as I began working, of course, that's time to spend on the computers and things like that. So anyway, fast forward to the boot camp. Um, that's where I began to get, you know, that fire hose exposure to all
Right.
things cybersecurity, the different tools, um, the different certifications, the different career opportunities, and things like that. Like I had no idea. I knew that IT in and of itself was massive, but I didn't know that
Right. Yeah. It's
cybersecurity, it's
forever expanding.
forever expanding. But um, so I spent the next 6 months from December of 2020 to June of 21, um, attending the boot camp and just trying to educate myself and prepare myself and just soak up as much as I could because, like I said, it was a fire hose exposure. Um, Aside from that, um, I began to use my LinkedIn a lot more. I mean, it was encouraged, and so I began to use it more, and I began to kind of reach out and connect with people and meet people and look at some of the things that they were doing, and so I'm doing all these things that I probably wouldn't have done had I not been, you know, had I not become unemployed. Had I still been working in oil and gas and
Right.
being comfortable, I probably wouldn't have been doing a lot of things that I'm doing now. But I'm so thankful in that regard. I think sometimes we have to be pushed out of a situation that's comfortable
Right.
because if we stay where it's comfortable, then it's not gonna compel us to do other things or try other things. So it's like I'm so thankful for my journey as weird and as unconventional and as twisting as it has been. Um, but I hope I addressed
Yeah.
like kind of what you wanted to
Definitely.
know and everything.
Yeah, definitely. So, I mean, your story is very unique. I mean, it still captures a lot of people are coming from all over the place, right? So, like when we talked to Tish last week, she's coming from uh, she was
Airlines.
airlines, like so pilot, flight attendant, like all the above, and then she made that pivot into cybersecurity. So I've been IT my entire military career, but at one point I was thinking about doing something different, right? So my undergrad, so my associates is in IT. My undergrad is in social psychology. So totally pivot, right? And then I lucked up and I received a job doing something in cybersecurity, and it kept me in. And then I made that hard pivot back. So now my graduate's in cybersecurity information assurance, with certifications and what have you. So uh, if anything, I think it you bring something unique to the table, right? Uh, in having life experience, like if people come out straight out of college, like their focus is on nothing but cyber, which is not knocking them. There's nothing wrong with that.
Right,
Uh,
right.
but they have a laser beam focus sometimes. But when
Hmm.
you have people like when I was talking to Tish, like, hey, you have been trained to deal with situations that no one has been trained to deal with, right? You're
Absolutely.
metal tube 30,000 feet in the air, something goes wrong. Like it gives you a unique perspective. You're probably also really calm under pressure. So
Right.
there's
Oh
all
yeah.
kinds of different things you can do, right? And in your
Yeah.
case, like you said, you already had an IT background. but then you went into security, CCTV, and all that good stuff, and that all that still ties back into cyber. Like there's a security manager that deals with a lot of that type of stuff. Like physical security comes first, because it doesn't matter how protected your network is. If you don't have ballards up or some kind of perimeter, I'm driving straight in that thing.
Right.
Your
Yep.
server, your ATM, whatever, without the proper physical security. So that you have something unique you can bring to the table as well. And then just having the passion. So like you said, things change for you and you had to get out of your comfort zone, and that's growth. So you latched onto something that really interests you, and it kind of coming full circle. So now you're coming back into technology.
Absolutely. And I think the other thing that I want to add too is that lack of confidence that I touched on in the beginning when I graduated with my degree from undergrad many moons ago. I think it's the opposite now, and it touches on that full circle because having endured the boot camp and having all the exposure that I gained from that, and then making the connections and building the network that I now have, and just communicating with people that I haven't even met before, and to get the support from them on different things that I've done or I've completed, or things that nature. Like it's built my confidence, and I think that confidence is still growing. One of the things that I really appreciate, what I really appreciate, and I'm a huge fan of in this cybersecurity space, is the support. Like this community, like I didn't know this community existed. Granted, no family is perfect, right?
Right.
But this cybersecurity space, it's been really eye opening. Like to feel that energy and support from total strangers, like it's been immense, and it's been powerful, and it's increasing my confidence.
Right. No doubt. So yeah, like the reason that I kind of started the podcast. So it's our timelines almost sync up, right? So I'm currently overseas. I got here in November of last year, so it's been a year now, and I started the podcast because uh, in the military we're very diverse. Like you're going to see a lot of people, a lot of different situations, and you get lots and lots of experience in things that are vastly different. And then I started looking at, so what I'm going to do when I transition back in the civilian side, I want to do cybersecurity, right? So I started looking into it and I started seeing the numbers. And I'm like, oh, it's not very diverse. It's not, there's a lot of opportunity, but there are some like you said, it's not perfect, right? So there are some gatekeepers. Like they do ask you for experience, and things of that nature that outstrips reality sometimes. So they were like, hey, we want you to have like 5 years of experience before you take this entry level job. Well, how did I get that? I had
Yeah,
to get an entry level job first, right? Like,
yeah.
so a lot of that stuff doesn't make sense, and it's starting to work itself out, only because you have huge initiatives coming from, like you said, you received a boot camp where you're at, and those are starting to spring up all over the place. Like there's a huge demand from the industry to get more people in the pipe because there's just not enough people, like just period. So you'll start to see some of that stuff start to slip away. Even though they may say it, you still should apply anyway, because they're not going to be able to find that person. Like it doesn't even make logical sense.
Right, right,
Um, but with all that being said, I think you definitely bring a unique perspective. We were already connected before Tish recommended you, because she recommended you, and I was like, I know that name,
yeah.
and I wanted to click to connect with you, and I was like, I'm already connected. So
Yeah, yeah. So everything worked out.
yeah. So I'm definitely glad to have you on the show. But just like I said, Tish, so I've spent a good majority of time asking you questions. So what questions do you have for me?
Okay, so um, I guess the one question that comes to mind is simple question, like what book or books are you reading right now that kind of keep you motivated, that kind of help you to kind of stay on the pulse of the things that you're focusing on, or just on the industry, like in general.
Got you. So I get it from multiple different arenas, right? So for the show, I like to keep it as timely as possible. So I'm always every week I'm digging into articles. I'm trying to see what's the latest, like what happened, what kind of breaches, and I try to have variety, right? So I don't want to talk about the same, like we know the same companies, which I don't like naming every week, have the same problems with either diversity or they have the same problems with breaches and things of that nature. So I'm looking for something else, right? I'm trying to always see like what is the future hold, what is something different that's happening in the political arena, like what is happening. And I always try to find articles that deal with people who look like us, right? Like what is the industry doing about us only being 9% of the community? Or this week we talked with Aisha Hollins about a article basically saying like stop calling us unicorns. Like it was like 25% of cyber is female. Stop calling us unicorns because unicorns don't exist. Like
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
you know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
you're doing the opposite. Like you think you're putting us on a pedestal and making it like saying like we stand out, but she was like we're already here. Like so, you know what I mean? Come up with a different naming convention or what have you. So I always like to stay relevant on the show. And then when it comes to my own training, so once you start to rank in the certifications, I warn you now, you got to stay up on it because you have to pay the bill. Either it's going to be a tax of your time or it's going to be an actual bill to stay certified in something. So like with my PMP is coming time. Like I'm cranking through different project management. What are they called? Like not audio files, but like podcasts and things of that nature. I'm digging through training material. I'm trying to work on my green belt. Not because necessarily I need it, because it's a different, right? So PMPs through PMI, green belts through CPI, but those count towards my PMP credits. So why not kill two birds with one stone, learn something new, and maintain my certification. Same thing with CISSP. That's due 2023, and I've been slacking. Like so, I've been consistently raking in knowledge, but it's not documented. So I got to go back through and figure out like what did I learn and what can I tie it to, because you got to pay that tax. And now I'm moving towards cloud because cloud is my biggest blind spot. So I've been doing IT for almost 20 years on the networking side. So network infrastructure is my bread and butter. That's what the Air Force paid me to do, and continues to pay me to do. And then before I moved over to cybersecurity, which I currently do. So I have all the physical stuff, all the on-premise stuff, but lo and behold, everybody's moving to the cloud. What do I
Everybody's
know
moving
about
to
the
the cloud.
cloud? You
Yeah.
know what I mean? Like what do I know about the cloud, and how can I get to a point where I know enough that I can secure it? So that's my next project, right? And that's is just something that keeps me interested because a lot of it is similar, but a lot of it is different, right? So I think it's just having that healthy mix. Like you see people who stay down one lane and become experts of it, which is great. The military has kind of taught me to be a jack of all trades. Like I'll never be, a quote unquote expert and like have like 15 degrees in just this one subject, because I don't like to put all my eggs in one basket, and I will get bored.
Right.
So you know what I mean? Like what are these other technologies that I know something of, but you know what I mean, still a blind spot for me. Because at the end of the day, you don't know what is going to be available to you. So it's good to be able to speak intelligently to a bunch of different categories of tech and cyber. So
Yeah, because what I've learned is just again like how immense the cybersecurity space is. There's like infinite numbers of disciplines within the space, and like for me, right now I'm focusing on the cloud. I'm trying to relate to the cloud. I'm trying to understand it. So I'm doing some studying, things of that nature, primarily on the Amazon platform.
okay,
But like there's so many other things that I'm interested in as well. Like I'm trying to focus on cloud, but there's still other things that interest me as well. Like especially like digital forensics.
right,
And there's so many different things that you can do with digital forensics. There's so many areas that you can focus in. Um, and it just it can really feed your curiosity. If you're curious about something, you'll research and figure out how it
Right.
works. Where can I get this data from? What you know what open source intelligence can I gather? Like, what can I do? What other tools are out there that I can leverage? And I think that's the beauty. I think that's another beauty of cyber and IT as well. Is like, if you can stay in a place where you're willing to learn and it be an ongoing thing, like you're in the right place. And I think that's what really draws me to it. Like, I have so many LinkedIn learning courses that I have saved. Like, last year I wasn't doing this. I like, it's amazing. It's amazing. But with that being said, it's one thing for us to collect certs and save all these different courses, but it's another thing to really just, focus in and like practice them, implement them, and use them.
Right.
So I think for me that's one of the things too, because, for example, when I took the Security Plus and I failed it the first time, but I passed it the second time. Immediately, I was excited, but then somewhere in there later on, I began to realize, wow, I realized how much more I still didn't know. Granted, I passed the exam, but there was this thought of, wow, I still have a long ways
Right.
to go in my respect. I think it'll forever be that case, and I'm okay with that because I can always learn something. There's always something to be learned. Technology is going to evolve. Your types of attacks are going to evolve as technology evolves, which means you can only try to keep learning and stay abreast of what's going on. Um, so my goal is to just be good about doing that.
Yeah. Yeah. Just stay passionate, or at least go down lanes that you're passionate about, right? Like, so
Hmm.
people will chase a certain cert because it pays well. But that, I mean, that's great and all, but if you're not passionate about it, when people speak to you, they'll be able to tell. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like, there's certain stuff that for whatever reason, like I'm always interested in compliance and governance, and that's the most boring stuff on the planet. I don't know what it is, but I'm just like, whenever I learn about a new framework that's being dropped, or an update to like to the FISMA or the NIST frameworks, I read about it, and it's stuff that will put you to sleep. But if it comes up in conversation, like it's something I'm passionate about, like, okay, we talk about this. Like, at one point I was pursuing forensics, so I got my CEH, and then I was looking at getting GCFA, which I'm still thinking about doing. I looked down at the books. I got a stack of books. I'm still working on it, but there's a lot of material, right? Uh, so I would say don't put too much on your plate, because then you'll be all over the place, right? Like, so for
Right.
me, I try to keep it down to two or three things that I'm pursuing, max, and then I map out a goal. So like, uh, I meant to do it this week because this was a long weekend. I did not do it, so I have to do it next weekend. But what are my 2022 goals? Um, and not just I want to get this, I want to get that, but when do I want to get it by? So that way I actually have like a roadmap, right? So we call them SMART goals. I'm sure other people use it as well, right? Specific, measurable, attainable, realistic, and time bound. So what are those goals that I want to pursue? Like, what do I want to get before next May? What do I want to get before the end of next year? So like the last one on my list for this year is to get Azure cloud fundamentals. So I only have so much more time left to knock that one out. And then once I do that, what is my next step? Like, am I going to pursue the next, Microsoft Cloud Cert? Do I want to pivot to AWS and learn how they do business? But you don't want to do too much. I
Too
have a
much.
huge list of things that I want, but I'm just like, which two of these am I going to
Right.
pursue? Um,
Pick something, hone in on it for a little bit.
yeah,
Get familiar with it, get acclimated with it, and then once you arrive at that level,
yeah,
then you can afford yourself to, include something else. Like
Right.
right now for
Exactly.
me, like the main thing that I'm really honed in on is AWS right now. Like my goal is to take the CCP by the end of the year. And I'm probably giving myself more time than what I should, but that's my target is end of the year CCP. It probably shouldn't take that long. It should probably take like another couple of weeks or so. But I'm giving myself the end of the year
Okay.
to take that exam and earn that certification.
Yeah,
Because
definitely.
there's just so many different like facets to it. So
Right. Right. And then as getting the experience. So there's a lot of labbing up that you can do. Because at the end of the day, like barring degree and certification, because we I don't know if you look on LinkedIn doesn't do it too much, but like Twitter, when Twitter is rough. Everybody's always battling about, what's my degree is better than your certification versus your experience, and yada yada yada. That experience is king. Experience is what gets your foot in the door.
mhm.
All the other stuff comes after experience. So like after you pursue it or while you're pursuing it, if you can get your hands on real gear, do that. But if not, then simulate it, lab it up, because that's what they're going to ask you about when in the interview. Like, well, how much experience do you have with this? Because they want to know how much OJT they need to give you once you get your foot in the door. Because ultimately they're going to give you some kind of on-job training. Um, that's just the way these things work, right? Every company is slightly different. They do things slightly different. Um, I mean, I worked for McDonald's, Burger King, and Wendy's, right? They were all different when I was in high school. like
Mhm.
like yeah,
Mhm.
you still put the patty on the grill, right? But we all have different procedures on how we do it. And it's the same thing comes with tech. Like every company's going to do it slightly differently, but the more you can bring to the table, like with your life experience, as well as like, okay, I've pivoted hard into this and I have the certification, but I also have hours working with,
Mhm.
cloud or what have you. And I can speak to it, like, and they can tell in the interview how passionate you are about it.
So to that point, I know what I want to ask you. Um, when you were starting out your career in IT and cybersecurity, how much time would you say you spent um, labbing?
So a little bit of I guess a difference. So again, the military gives you a lot of latitude. So when we go through our technical training, we're hands-on gear. So I had 7 months to get through not knowing anything about networks to learning basic hardware and putting my hands on it, building PCs and all that good stuff, configuring switches and routers, learning subnetting, and I used to be a computer science major way back in the day, and I dropped out. So, so math is not my strong point, but I can subnet. And then actually, like there was a capstone right at the end. Like you have to build and configure a network from scratch to include telephones, PCs, networking, sending traffic, all that stuff. So it's a little bit different, right? And anybody else in the real world would have much more time than 7 months to learn how to do it from scratch. But again, it's the benefit of Department of Defense. Like they want you to be able to do everything, and we only have a finite amount of time to do it. But we have plenty of money and bodies to throw at it. So we'll get you through. If we don't get you through, we'll get you another job. We'll get somebody else through. So, um, so for me, the hardest part, because I was always good with like, so I don't know our age difference because you look younger than me, but the
I,
PC
I,
you're talking about, I did not have. So I had an
I,
Apple
I don't
II.
I don't know if it's a good idea to make my age public. I don't know. I don't want to go through
Yeah,
the
I
whole
don't,
age
know.
discrimination thing. Like I
No,
know you and I would be good, but for anyone who might watch it, be like, oh no, he's too old. We can't now. I don't
yeah, I
want
was
to
just
give them
saying,
that.
right, like black don't crack. So for me, it was Apple IIe, right? So my aunt had an Apple IIe. She was a school teacher. I used to go over there and play Carmen San Diego on the big floppy disk. And when it
Big
was not
floppy
acting right,
disk.
yeah, when it was not acting right, she would let me take it apart and tinker with it. Because she had a bunch of spare PCs and what have you. So I already kind of had that in me. But when it came to the networking and subnetting and all that stuff, that was all brand new to me. Um, so it took me a while to get there, but just like you, when I was done, I didn't feel like I could do it, but I didn't feel as confident as I felt I should feel. So I went back to the books, right? So that's why I pursued um, CCNA, because I had a coworker who had his CCNA when I arrived on station, my first duty station, and he was super sharp. So I was like, I want to be like him. I want to be able to do what he does. So I started pursuing the CCNA, and then that helped me to build and to learn the things that I thought I had gaps on. And then I felt more confident because I didn't just have a CCNA. I felt like I was a CCNA, if that makes sense. I think that's a lot of people. Like you might get the certification, but you're like, but I don't have the time and experience on it, but I have the knowledge of it, and it's just a matter about filling those gaps in.
I think maybe having a sense of feeling like you could
Yes.
truly own what you learned and things like that.
Yeah. And like I was telling Tish, breaking it, when you break something and then you have to fix it, like that's when you get the most confidence, in my opinion, anyway. I've taken a couple production networks down.
Yeah, I saw that interview. Yeah, that was
And
that was hilarious.
it builds confidence though. Like obviously I have the latitude to do that. So don't, if you're out there, don't do that if you can help it. But at some point you're going to do it. It's going to happen, regardless if you're in configuration management, you're in networking. I'm sure it happens in the cloud all the time. But try to break your stuff first, and that way you can quickly rebuild anything that you happen to take down in the real world. So I have plenty of experience on breaking my own network. So
Yeah, you know, with that, you now know what to do and what not to do. So no experience is ever lost, right? Like
no,
there's something that you don't want to happen, but when they do happen, you can take something from it because now you know how to better manage that
right.
situation. So
Yeah. Yeah. So again, like, yeah, lab it up as much as you can, and you will break stuff, and then you will learn from your experience. And then when you do learn something new, the ability to teach. So, like if I can learn it, do it, and then be able to explain it to someone who's never done it before,
mhm.
then I feel the most confident. Like I think that's the highest level of achievement when it comes to whether it be IT or cybersecurity. Like when you can break it down. Like so right now I teach at the collegiate level, but before then, like just being in the military, like that's what you do. So you learn something, you pass it down. You learn something new, you pass it down, or you write a standard operating procedure, or you write a TTP, tactics, techniques, and procedures. Like you are always in the learning and then passing it down phase, because you have to replace, like you have to basically build the next person up in line. Like because what could happen? Like I could have to go somewhere, have to deploy. God
Mhm.
forbid something were to happen to me. Like I need to make sure the next person's able to do it. And then that just followed me through to now where I teach. So as my class, she was a psychology major, had nothing to do with IT, and I was teaching a IT fundamentals class, and I would just have to change the way I pursued uh, the agenda, because like the people who had IT experience would absorb it quickly, but in her case, she's very intelligent, but she's just not techie. So I had to be able to make it more practical. And I think if you could do that, that's like when you see the light bulb turn on and somebody learns something new, you're just like, yeah, I got it. Like
Yeah,
I understand what I'm trying to teach, because they now understand what I taught them.
yeah. There's that factor of just being able to find a way to relate to information, and if you can relate to information, then now you then have a tool that you can use to help someone else learn how to relate to information.
Yeah.
If that makes sense, because I think a lot of times because you hear about transferable skills, you know you you know for people who are coming from different careers, totally unrelated careers, or at least as how they perceive it. But those skills themselves that are transferable is what makes two contrasting careers relatable. It's the skills within. Um, and I kind of lost my point. I was so excited to talk about that, but
Yeah.
um, oh, okay. So it's almost it's like no experience is ever really lost.
Yeah.
Um, Again, if you can find a way to take something that you've done and relate it to IT and cybersecurity, that kind of helps different concepts to kind of stick.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. Because like with you and Tish and probably millions of other people, we all have relatable experiences that go right into cybersecurity. Like for you, when it comes to information systems and perimeter defense or intrusion detection systems and things of that nature, like you've worked around those things, or you've applied certain skills to those things, and now full circle, you're able to do it on cyber side as well.
Yeah.
And then yeah, because you mentioned something off camera about forensics, like so like that's a relatable skill. Like you did some of that on the outside before you got into cyber, right? Now that's
Actually,
something you could pursue.
I you know, actually let me kind of rewind back. Like at the time that I was working in the federal government as a contractor, I probably didn't even it probably didn't dawn on me that I was doing things that were relatable or even discussed in the cybersecurity space, because during that time, as far as I was concerned, I wasn't working in a cybersecurity space. However, I was doing things that I later discovered were actually affiliated and talked about and are ongoing in the cybersecurity space, even though it was in this environment of the federal government and being a CCTV operator. Like I think that was the other thing that was kind of encouraging about it. Like maybe perhaps I was doing things at the time, not knowing that the cybersecurity space incorporated those things.
Yeah, definitely. And with you actually working for the federal government, like it might be something you might want to look into when it comes to job entry. So like when I was talking to Tish, like 8570 is like the holy grail, right? Like in order to touch a DoD network, you have to have 8570 qualifications. So your tier ones are your ITF plus, your Net plus, your A plus. Your tier twos are your Sec plus, your CYSA, your CCNA security. Your tier threes are like your CISSPs and CISM and all that good stuff as well. So you already have a certification. You already have previous federal experience. It may be something you want to look into, like either through Glassdoor or through LinkedIn Jobs. Just type in your social and then, or not social, type in your zip code. There you go. Type in your zip code and 8570, and you'll see stuff pop up for companies that require the certification in order to do the work they do with the government. So you already have a leg up on some people.
So another question: Do you have any interests that aren't necessarily IT interests, but they are like hobbies or things outside of your world of IT that you do that you still feel tie into the IT space for you? Like,
So a lot of them are like one-to-one correlations because I've been so enveloped in cyber for so long, right? So like podcasting can be done without cyber, but my podcast has everything to do with cyber. But I enjoy it. Like I like talking to people. I like networking. I'm pretty introverted outside of this, but like I love this because it's like talking about somebody about sports to me. Like that's how it feels. Like I'm a big Bills fan, right? So I'm from Buffalo. I'm a big Bills fan. Like you want to talk about Bills, talk about the Bills. But this also feels very similar. Like okay, you want to talk about certain certifications or certain domains. Like I feel that passion about it. I play video games. Been playing since I can remember, like Carmen San Diego and the Apple IIe or Mavis Beacon. You know what I mean? Like, um, I'm trying to think outside of cyber. I work out a lot, so every day I'm trying to do something with strength and in running. So I run almost every single day. I try to put in a good 40, 50, sometimes 60 miles a month, because it helps me clear my head, right? I can think about anything else while I'm on that treadmill.
Hmm. Hmm. Hmm.
uh, but usually there's a TV up, right? Because I'm running indoors, so I'm usually watching something that they're playing on TV. But I just I like get burn that energy before work. Um, I'm trying to think. I read a lot of sci-fi, so or listen. So I say read, but I usually listen to audiobooks. But like sci-fi is my thing. Right now, I'm listening to Stephen King's The Institute. It's got my interest, so I've been listening to that. Watching a bunch of like Picard is one of my shows. Is my jam on Paramount Plus or whatever. And then there's a couple on Apple Foundation and Invasion. So I like
Oh yeah,
sci-fi, horror.
Invasion's
Yeah,
good. Yeah, yeah.
yeah. So a lot of that type of stuff. Anything Marvel, I'm down for. So I'll watch all that stuff.
Oh yeah,
Um,
yeah. You gotta watch Shang-Chi. You gotta watch that.
I did, yeah,
Oh
yeah.
man, yeah, yeah.
Because so I'm on. I work on a base. I live on a base, I should say. So like there's a theater. So I actually got to see it in theater while I was here, which was great. Um, So just regular old nerd, man. Anime, video games, comics.
Well, I was asking that question because I don't know if you've experienced this, but for me, ever since, like I said, ever since doing the boot camp and thereafter, it's like I kind of look at certain things a little differently. Like
Gotcha.
if there's a movie that has a scene where someone's trying to you know
Right.
uh crack some code, or they're actually in the process of encrypting some code, it's like when you see scenes like that,
Yeah.
you kind of look at them
Yeah. It's like
differently.
sometimes it's like nails on chalkboard. Like try watching Hackers. Like you remember watching Hackers? Like try watching it now. You're like, I
Like
don't
I
understand.
went all the way back. I was watching I remember watching was it War Games.
War games. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's like I was so I was so fascinated by it because at the time we're talking like the 80s, right?
Yeah.
So it's like the technology that was being used at that time was like at the time it was like the state of the art, you know,
Yeah.
thing to use. And it's just fascinating because it's not state of the art now. Like it's absolutely like obsolete pretty much.
Yeah.
Technology has evolved, but so it's like I just find myself like looking at certain things different, like scenes where there's programming involved or espionage is happening. It's like, okay, what technologies are they using? Like, what's the storyline? Like, I find myself watching those kinds of little things a little differently. And then like now, it's almost as if I'm not if I'm not watching something that can remotely teach me, then it just feels like a waste of time.
Oh, I see what you're saying. That comes with the passion. So you're drawn to things that you're passionate about. So like cyber is like your that's your baby right now, right? So you're always
Hmm.
gonna be driven towards that in some regard, which is good. Uh I would say over time it won't not be your passion, but you will find things to get you out of that mindset. So you don't feel like it's consuming all of your time. So that will come, but that won't be for years.
Because there's uh, like an anxiousness. It's like if I'm not in front of the computer trying to figure out how to make sense of something, if I'm doing something else, if I'm trying to sit and watch TV, like it doesn't have the same feel because in the back of my mind I'm thinking, man, let me go. I want to go figure out how to. I want to
Yeah.
figure out GitHub. Like I want to figure out how to better manage my repositories. Maybe
Right.
I need to build. I need to work on my Python. Like I'm thinking about those things in the back of my head. If I'm doing something else that's just not
Yeah.
worth my time, I'm thinking about how I could be spending my time doing this, this, and this. That's kind
Right.
of how my mind's been working here lately. It's like if I'm not learning something that's worthwhile, and I'm not doing something that's just not worthwhile, that which I am doing is just it's even it's even more less significant,
Right,
if that
right.
makes
So I,
sense.
I would warn you, like nothing wrong with that. Uh, you have to sometimes disengage only because, like nowadays, I feel guilt sometimes when I'm not studying or learning something new. So like it's like, okay, let me enjoy this PS5 I just bought my son. Sit here and play this video game, and then like you're 20 minutes into it, you're just like, I should be studying something.
Hmm.
You
Hmm.
have to learn. Like it's something that, especially during the pandemic. Oh man, like you have all this not necessarily free time, but you have all of this more efficient time, right? So I was still doing work during the pandemic, but I was able to multitask. So I'm doing work, I'm attending meetings, but I can also have another screen up and I can study, and then now
Hmm.
I'm right back into it.
Hmm.
But
Hmm.
when do you disengage? You just have to find some time to do that as well. Like my thing is the treadmill. Like every morning, like I don't care what is going on. I don't care if I wake up late. But
Hmm.
like now I need to hurry up and get on the treadmill, just so I can burn some of the energy off before I get to the through the door. Because when I was back in the States, that was the commute. So I'd have an hour and a half commute back home. That's how I disengaged. That gave me time to unwind from the 8, 9 hours of work I had to deal with to when I got home, so I can enjoy time with my family. It was that car ride. But again, I had to make myself listen to audiobooks because I would like, now I'm listening to this podcast about, something like whether it be cloud or PMP or something like that. But I'm like, no, that's me still studying. And let me
Hmm.
listen to the Stephen King book real quick so I can disengage. Just for an hour, get that time back.
Hmm. Um, is there anything that still is there anything that still overwhelms you from a IT cybersecurity perspective, even though you have a wealth of experiences and educations?
Mm-hmm.
Is there still anything, or has there ever been anything that was still just overwhelming to you in any way, shape, or form? And if so,
So
how did you kind of work through that?
got you. So it kind of goes back to what you were saying. Like after you finish your Security Plus, you now had awareness, right? You can see a little bit further. You can see how much you don't know. That great expanse of just the void you need to fill with information, because cybersecurity is ever expanding. There's always going to be something new. I get that sometimes. It's like staring into the abyss. You're like, the more I'm aware of what I do know, the more I know I'm trying to figure out how to say it. The more awareness I begin to have, the more I know what I don't know.
Hmm.
It's like I
That
need
makes
to
sense.
absorb more information. Like, because it's just I will never know enough. Is kind of the problem. And I have awareness of it now. Um, but the other one is imposter syndrome. So, like, yeah, um, like this helps me, like having this conversation, like talking to you, and not to be boastful or to brag on myself, but just to let some of it out, like anything I can share with you. And then again, it's like that teachable moment, right? Like I may be able to just say something that you didn't think about, or a different perspective that you're not looking at, and I see the light bulb cut on, right? That makes me feel better, not in a gloating type of way, but just like,
Right,
okay, I do know something.
right, right.
Like whether it be the experience or the book knowledge or what have you. Like I get a lot of that out of my system through networking, through LinkedIn, through the podcast. It makes me feel better about what I do know, knowing that I don't know everything.
Hmm.
Like you
Hmm.
could easily come on the show and stump me, and I'd be like, you know
Hmm.
what, it's a complete blind spot. I don't know how that works, but we can kind of talk through it, and then we can get to some level of resolution to kind of getting you the answer you're looking for. But when I nail it, I'm just like, you know what? All right, today was a good
Hmm.
day.
Hmm.
But yeah,
Yeah, I
that
mean,
imposter syndrome is always going to be there, though. It's just
it's just part of it. Like the reason why the reason why I asked that, because someone like me who is still in his infancy, you know, as it pertains to trying to move into actually working and functioning officially in the cybersecurity space.
Right.
Like I just wonder what are some of the thoughts of someone who I would consider being a seasoned professional. If you still have some of those thoughts, or or do you still encounter like those brief moments of where there are still some things that are overwhelming for you,
Yeah.
and how do you work through it?
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. I mean, I think that's with every career field, right? Like sometimes I'll come to a room and people will say something, I have no clue what they're talking about. I'm just like, that acronym didn't hit quite right. You know what I mean? Like, so uh you I for me, I'm humble about it. Like, hey, I don't know exactly what that is. Can you explain it to me? Some people will try to learn through context. I try it sometimes, but if I'm not getting it, hey, I need to ask you questions, because like I'll be more mortified by trying to sound smart
Hmm.
and coming off dumb
Hmm.
than just admitting like, hey, I'm not quite grasping what you're putting down. And then typically when they break it down, then I'm like, oh, okay, that's similar to this, or that's like that, or oh, I never caught of that before. Because there's every acronym has 3-4 meanings. So you run into somebody who'll be talking about something totally different. You'd be like, I'm not tracking what you're saying.
Hmm.
Like
Hmm.
that is not how I use that acronym. Um, so it's about humility. Like I see it sometimes as it's a very small pocketed community, but people will come out very arrogant, and they are very intelligent. Don't get me wrong, but that the pride comes before the fall. Like if you don't know something, let people know you don't know something. There's no
Right.
way, it's not going to damage you. You know what I mean? Like just like, hey, I'm not quite grasping what you're saying.
Yeah, yeah. And I think that's probably like your best defense, if you will, is just to say, hey, I've heard of that. I've had some exposure to that, but I'm not as versed in it to the degree that I would like to be able to, truly like engage in this conversation with you. So I may need some time to kind of go back and revisit and understand, or I might need your help to kind of help me soak this up and understand it. 'Cause like I said, I'm still in my infancy right now, and there's so many different things that I'm interested in. But yeah, I think that for me, if I lay my transparency out there, I'm just like, hey, I don't I don't quite know. I've heard that. I
Yeah.
think that would be like one of the wisest things that I could do for myself, is just to lay it after that. No, I don't quite know just yet.
Yeah. And I think people appreciate that vulnerability. You know what I mean? Like whether it be from a leadership standpoint, like every now and then I'll have somebody who works for me ask me or ask me something. I'm like, I don't know what the answer is, but I will go find it out. The
Hmm.
same thing comes earlier on in your career. Like you will be Googling a lot of things. So,
Hmm.
and that will last you a lifetime.
When so 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 when that was mentioned during the boot camp, I was just like, oh wow, it kind of took some weight off my shoulders. Like I'm not going to be expected to just know everything, because who
Right.
just knows everything, right? So it's like, wow, if people who are teaching me right now in this boot camp, who are currently working in the field, if they're finding themselves having to like Google some stuff and ask around and things like that, it's like, okay, maybe this won't be so bad after. I don't have to worry about necessarily trying to go it alone in a in
Right.
a in a sense. So that's comforting.
Yeah. Yeah. Google, Reddit, um, all the above. Like you'll join forums. So I'm in a bunch of different groups. And then I just ask those questions like, hey, have you ever run into this before? Or, like what product are you using to monitor this? You're gonna always be expanding your network, always asking those questions. Um, is just nothing wrong with it. Like again, there's some people who feel like they can't show vulnerability or weakness. And when it comes to IT or cybersecurity, like you're not going to know everything. It's just too big.
Hmm. I was thinking about eh, right, and like as we're talking, like my mind is just racing on different things to ask,
Yeah.
ask and share and things like that. And so I think about like if you I don't know if you grew up playing sports or anything like that, but if you've ever played like, you know, team sports and things like that, like no one person that I know of can just do everything. Like you can
Right.
accomplish so much with the team, but being in the military, you know that you need your entire unit to get an objective accomplished, right?
Right.
Um, so so to know that similar um philosophy exists in cybersecurity as well, like that's also helpful because no, like there's too much information for any one person,
Right.
to know. So to be able to go to someone and say, hey, like I don't know about this. I don't know how to quite, handle the situation. What do you think? That's also comforting.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. You still do your research and whatnot, which you can, but there's only so much you can sometimes gather from Google. Like sometimes you will hit something, you'll be the first one to ask that question. You're
Hmm.
like, no one's asked this before. But then you have to rely on your SMEs, or who are just people who just have more experience than you. They've been doing it for longer.
Hmm.
Doesn't necessarily mean they're smarter. They just have way more experience. And those are the people who then break off some of that knowledge. Like, oh, okay, you can do this, or you could try. Did you try doing that? Um, I think it's an awesome community. Like especially with the expansion, because you have so many different people coming from so many different backgrounds now. Like just the amount of information sharing is just crazy right now.
If you could give yourself, I know the advice that I know the advice that I would give myself, given all that I've experienced up to this point. But what advice would you give yourself if you could go back to like any age of your younger self? Like,
Okay.
what advice would you give?
Man, because I kind of want to change anything, be honest with you, because I've been blessed beyond like when you look back on the different steps, like the things you wanted to do, and you just couldn't figure out why you couldn't do them. Like you felt defeated, and then you look at where you're at now, and you're like, oh, that was a life lesson. I learned something there. I had that throughout my entire career because I mean I could have got out years ago and gone the psychology route, but I don't think I would be as fulfilled as I am now. Or if I gotten out, I would have missed out. Like over the past 3 years, I've been to 7 different countries and got to live in the two of them, three of them. Like, I'm in my third country now, and I gotten out 10 years ago. That would never happen, right?
Mm-hmm.
But if I had to do anything, I would say I would tell myself to be more disciplined when it came to math. Um, it's something I hated since forever, since timetables. uh, and it doesn't it as an adult where I'm at right now, it doesn't make sense to me. Like it's something that like there's only one right answer. All you gotta do is just learn the formula and get to the right answer. But I fought it so hard growing up that I felt as though it closed a lot of doors for me. So like not a computer science major anymore, which I think is a good thing because I want to know where I'm at. But there's a few other things that like programs and things like that I could not apply for because my math scores were so atrocious. And I look back now and I was like, if I had just put more time in middle school and high school, like how much could I have learned? How much more disciplined would I have been when I got to the point I am now? But again, I'll be changing things. So that's the thing. That's the crazy thing, right? I think I'm supposed to be where I'm at right now. And the only way to get there would be to go on the path that I went. Because I had, like, when I was in middle school, I wanted to be an architect. You know what I mean? Like that's a huge departure from where I'm at right now. And it's thankfully because of the major I shouldn't have been in, enlisting, sticking with it for almost 2 decades, and now I'm here. Now I feel really um, confident, not comfortable, because like you alluded to before, like if like that's I want to be uncomfortable. I want that growth. That's where you get growth at is when you're uncomfortable. So I'm I jumped on this podcast and I started pursuing different certifications, and now I'm going through some entrepreneur classes because that makes me feel uncomfortable. Like working for somebody else, that's cool. If they fail, I find another job. You know what I mean? If I start my own business and that fails, I got a problem.
Yeah, yeah,
that,
yeah,
that makes me uncomfortable. So, you know what I mean? I'm trying to learn as much as I can to see if that's even a viable thing in the future.
yeah. And um, there's there's like for me, just in looking back over the past, like I said, the past year, past year, 14 months, um, there was a point where I remember I was at my desk and I'm working inside this beautiful building, huge glass windows, natural scenery on the other side, especially when the sun is shining in and everything. I just remember having this feeling, like this moment of like this is great, but if I'm being honest with myself, and I'm kind of talking in my head right now.
Right.
It's like if I'm being honest with myself, can I see myself like retiring from this place? And I couldn't see my future in that place. And it's so interesting because, and it's nothing against the organization that was working for. It's nothing
Right.
against them, but it's just like me just taking in a self-evaluation of where I am and kind of where my mind envisions me being, beyond this.
Right.
And it was such a strange, I guess I shouldn't say strange. It was just how things unfolded in the months after that. And sometimes a situation beyond what you know has to push you out.
Yeah.
It has to push you out and make you uncomfortable. Because like I said, had I not, you know, had I not um had I not been put in a position to where I either choose to stay under these circumstances or I volunteer to resign, which was a whole new experience for me. Like I'd never faced that before. But it was a gift in the sense of it put me in a place to force myself to learn something different. And so I'm thankful for that discomfort, because that discomfort, ultimately led me to, be invited to come on and talk on a podcast. It's allowed me to be curious about learning different things about cybersecurity. It's allowed me to network and build connections with different people. Um, and it's not something that I can, I'm thankful for it. I'm
Right.
thankful for it. Sometimes we need that discomfort. We need that unfortunate turn in circumstances to get us to where we need to be. And then at the end of the day, wherever we are, it's still up to us to do our part to make certain things happen to an extent. There's things that we can do, that we can control, and then there's things that we have to be aware of that we can't control.
Yeah.
But what do we focus on? We focus on the things that we can do, you know, and let everything else take care of itself.
Yeah, definitely. So yeah, I wholeheartedly agree with you. And luckily it brought you, here. Like now you
Hmm.
got a new passion. You got something to look forward to every day because you're gonna be learning something new every day. That's also awesome about it. Like I literally learn something new every day. Whether it be through actual work or through study or just even just reading, like okay, I didn't even know you could do that. Like
Hmm.
especially with all the attacks that have recently been happening. Like, oh, I didn't even know you could do that. That's something I gotta look out for now.
Yeah, it was like I think at the time that I was in my boot camp, it was like a historical time to be in a boot camp because like while we're while we're studying and learning about cybersecurity, like I remember like the SolarWinds attack like happened.
Yeah.
It's like, wow, this is like perfect timing. Like we're sitting here like in the very early stages of learning about cybersecurity, and here it is, an actual real life event
Yeah.
occurs. And then like what back in May, we had the Colonial Pipeline.
Hmm.
I mean, and that was right here. That was here in Houston. Like that was huge. Like
Right.
so there's you know real use cases going on right there, like right there before your eyes as you're trying to learn about the space of cybersecurity.
Yeah. Yeah. And you have the awareness to actually understand what's happening as well. You know what I mean? Like, so it flew over a lot of people's heads because it's not their thing. Like, so they're just wondering why they can't get gas. Like, you know what I mean? Can't get gas for what? Or you know what I mean? Like, now there's a chip shortage and all that stuff because of the pandemic. Like, you don't necessarily correlate the two, right? Like, so why can't I get a PS5?
Hmm.
Well, because of all this stuff, because of a virus. You're like, really?
Hmm. Hmm.
So I mean, it is a crazy time to be to be like you say. You call it your infancy. I don't see it that way. I think you're far beyond what you believe you are. But you are new to the game, so it is a great time for you to be in it and getting those experiences because you have people who've been in it for decades scratching their head like I didn't even know that was possible.
Hmm. Hmm.
But here it is. It's happened to us. So now you have to think like, what does the future look like? And that changes training pipelines. So like this person who is far beyond now has to figure out ways to train people who are starting out. like like this is how the game has changed now. This is what you need to be on the lookout for. So again, ever evolving.
So, um, do you have any particular people that you stay in contact with who where it's kind of like a iron sharpens iron kind of relationship? Like, do you have any like a handful of people or that person like that you have that professional camaraderie with that kind of helps you to guys to that kind of helps you in your career?
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. Like, so, being in the military, like you always have extended family, right? So you have people you meet. It could be like for a short period of time or a long period of time, whatever. But the military will find a way to break you apart. So you have to stay in contact with that person. When you come back together, it's like you never left. Um, uh, for me right now, it's definitely Shannon Levon, my co-host, which we're in all different time zones, right? Like they're back in the States. One is on the West Coast, the other one's in Mountain Time. I think it's Mountain Time. Um, we met in Virginia a decade ago, right? So
Mm-hmm.
we like those were the people I reached out to first when I wanted to do the podcast. I was like, you know what, this is an idea I have. I'm currently in quarantine because I travel from overseas. I travel from stateside overseas. I'm losing my mind in this hotel room. Let me call them up and see if they have time to talk to me. And then that's what the podcast was born out of. When it comes to business and moves like that, I have Jeffrey Lodick. He's also from Buffalo, but I met him in the military 5, 6 years ago. Like phenomenal dude. I find myself using his quotes all the time. He's a motivational speaker. He's Army. I'm Air Force. So, so like the different mindsets come into play all the time. Like he's somebody I look up to, and I continuously ask questions. Like I'm thinking about making this move. I'm thinking about doing this with the podcast. I'm thinking about doing that. He's always like 15 steps ahead. Like he's always doing something great. So as somebody I'm you know I don't like to say chasing, but I see him making moves. And I'm like, I want to go in that direction. Um, but yeah, like I mean, people I run into on LinkedIn, man. Like I'm going to stay in contact with you now because I want to know your journey, right? I want to know Tish's journey.
Mm-hmm.
Like I want to see what moves you guys are making. Or on the other side of the firewall, I have Chelsea Pierre. You know, she's an entrepreneur. I have Aisha Holland. She's an entrepreneur. Gabe Davis, he works for CISA and he's doing phenomenal big things, right? So I keep in touch with all these people, and I think it helps balance me out. And then make moves or do collaborations. Like, like you may want to, do something in audio video in the future, or you might be a person who writes blogs and stuff like that. Like, oh, I want to see what James is doing. You know what I mean? Like, he's making moves right now. And depending on your career path, like you might open the door for me. Like,
Well,
hey,
I mean, hey, I
put
mean,
me on.
well, here's, and see, I think that's the other thing because for me, like, I've been the recipient of so many, um, of so much good fortune of other people just kind of doing things on my behalf, and it's like, man, and someone that it's like it's almost like you want to repay all those who have kind of come before you or have done things, just to kind of help you along the way. Like you kind of want to just do it like on this, you want to do something on this big scale to kind of pay it forward. Like a like I wrote about a buddy of mine who paid it forward on my behalf to kind of help me. I shouldn't even say kinda, but he paid it forward on my behalf, which financially it allowed me to retake the exam, the Security Plus.
Okay.
And that was huge for me. Like I don't think I know for me, like I'll never be able to say I've accomplished things and done things by myself. Like I had to have that coach to show me how to work out. I had to have that teacher to educate me on the fundamentals of reading, writing, and arithmetic. I had to have um, that coworker that showed me how to do this. I had to have that manager who gave me this feedback. Like all those things contribute to the development of who I am and where I am and where I want to go. So it's to be able to pay it forward in some regard. Like that's huge. Um and like I said, I've just been the recipient of like so many different people giving me chances, giving me feedback, um showing me how to do certain things,
Right.
different things. And that includes, family, friends, past coworkers, total strangers. Like it's huge. It's huge, and I've just been fortunate. I've just been fortunate, and I continue to be fortunate. So
Yeah. That's good. That's good that you recognize it, right? Because some people are like, "Yeah, I did it. I did this. Pull myself up by my bootstraps." And you're like, "No one helped you. No one motivated you." Like, nah, I
someone
did it myself.
someone
Like,
had to
what?
make those boots. I mean,
Right. So that's good that you recognize it, man. 'Cause that's for everybody, right?
yep,
Everybody,
yep,
someone's helping you, right? So like my big support systems, obviously my family, my wife and kids, but then my extended family, right? So I got hundreds of people I've met throughout the military where I run into them again, on LinkedIn or assignments and stuff like that. And you're like, oh yeah, I remember, such like we were on this team together, we did this together, we did this project together. Um, we're always helping each other. Like as long as you keep that mentality moving forward, I think you do phenomenal. Maybe you want to stay away from Twitter then.
like
Because
the only
it's kind of
social media
toxic in
yeah
there.
the only social media I have right now is LinkedIn. And it's like that's where my time is spent.
And then LinkedIn is by far the most positive out of all of them. So I definitely say continue to stay in that one, and then just talk to people. Like
Yeah.
just hit them up, and you'd be surprised. Like some people want to sell you stuff that happens. You're like, I don't want to buy
Yeah,
nothing.
I just go delete.
Yeah.
I don't know that person.
Yeah, but the majority of people just want to have a conversation, find out what you do, how you do it, and then maybe you can use it to network, right? Push and pull type situation. So
Yeah, it's like there's like there's people that I've exchanged number with that I still need to give a call just just to have a conversation with them.
yeah,
And like is I think one of the other things is like when someone reaches out to me because they've seen a post where I referenced passing the Security Plus, and then they'll reach out to me to ask me just tips, like
right,
or advice, or just my thoughts. It's like really, I'm
yeah,
I'm I'm glad you thought enough of me to even ask me. Like I'm just starting out. But
Yeah,
but but
climb that
also,
ladder though.
yeah. And so, like I appreciate that. Um, because my ultimate goal, or the main thing I really just care about, is I just want to be helpful.
Yeah,
If I can be helpful, that's like that makes it all the better. So when people reach out to me to get my advice, what tools did you use? What resources do you recommend? How did you study? How do you feel about the exam? And just little simple things like that. Just being able to engage someone because someone thought enough of me to even ask me. Like that's a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun. It's meaningful. It means a lot.
right. Yeah, definitely. So just keep that up. I'm telling you, it's gonna take you far. Like you will definitely be surprised, or not. You know what I mean? Like, because you said like you have awareness that people have helped you. You've helped people, so it's the same thing. You just need to well, not that you need to broaden your network, but you will through by being a member of LinkedIn. You will broaden your network. People will reach out to you, like you said, because you're moving. You've moved up several rungs of that ladder, right? So there's somebody behind you who is
Hmm
just like, how'd you get up there?
hmm Well,
Like,
hey,
how,
let me tell you what I did. This may not work for you, but let me share with you what I did. Yeah.
right. So yeah, no, that's phenomenal. So any other questions?
Um, I can't think of anything right off the top. Um,
That's fine.
I know I want to give a quick shout out to Tish. I want to shout her out
Yeah.
on my interview segment. I want to shout her out for referencing me to you, and then I want to just say thank you for having me on. Like I'm so excited to talk. I was so nervous to talk to you. Not necessarily to you, but just to be on the podcast. But at the same time, I'm thankful because I'm thankful that you have this platform where you can help people and allow people to kind of talk about themselves, talk about their journey, and
Yeah.
just be a part of what you're doing. And then hopefully, it's able to help somebody else and like, which is the goal at the end of the day, right? So,
Definitely. Yeah.
so thank you for having me.
Yeah, definitely. No, thank you for coming, man. And same thing. So shout out to Tish. Like it was because of her non-question. Like uh she was like I forget how we connected. I think she reached out to me. And I was like, yeah, ask me a question. She was like, no, I want a conversation. So and that's where this came from,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Because it felt like something was missing from the show. Like people would send me questions and I'm just talking to the void. You don't get
Hmm
that connection. I don't see that light bulb cut on. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I do like this a lot better. And now it's from both ends. So the other side of the firewall, for those of you who listen to that show, we get people who are already in those C-suite, senior level positions. Like that's me. Like, what did you do to get up there? And then we can bring that down to people who look like us, so they can know, like, hey, we only make up 9%, but here are the people who are in those positions, and here's what they did. Uh, and now from the other side, right? So from Ask A CISSP, now I get to ask people who are trying to break in. So I'm like, man, I'm balanced now. Like,
Yeah.
came full circle.
Yeah. And like in this, I think in this day and time, and especially for those of us who are new, if there's anything that we can if there's anything that we can be attached to that is truly tangible for us,
Yeah,
whether it be a conversation on a podcast or whether it be that actual, you know, solid response from an employer or a recruiter,
yeah,
um, you know, anything that we can get that's tangible that, because we're just looking to get some help. We're looking to grab for anything that will help us to gain traction. And I absolutely believe that that's what your platform provides,
yeah,
from the Ask A CISSP. It provides something that's tangible. It provides traction for those of us who are trying to get in. So, again, you know, thank you for such a platform.
yeah. No, I appreciate it. So I'm gonna go ahead and land this plane. Uh, thank you again for coming. So everybody definitely hit up James Carroll III. He'll share his details with you. I'll definitely have a description or have his links in the description of the video. Look for more breakouts from this episode. So I'll break some of the Q&A down and push those out later on in the weeks to come. The holidays are coming, and I don't plan on working, so so I'm gonna chop all those up now so I can push them out during the holiday period. But yeah, if you have a question for me and you don't want to be on the show, just go ahead and send me your question. I can answer on the show or in a different video because I'm always down to help. If you do want to be on the show, hit me up. Obviously, I gotta talk to you first to make sure you're not crazy, and then we can record. So far, I'm batting 100. No crazy people. But no, that's what the platform is definitely for. Hopefully, this helps you in the future. LinkedIn's a living resume, and now you have even more content to put on it, right? So that's what we're going for. Everybody, continue to like, share, subscribe. Continue to tune in. Definitely listen to the other side of the firewall. This week is another banger. We have Aisha Hollins on for Wednesday discussion, and me and Levon are running solo for the first time, I think, maybe ever, because Shannon wasn't feeling well. So look out for this week's episodes. And stay safe, stay secure.
All right. Thanks, Ryan.